Be warned, readers, this video may contain spoilers for the content included. Now that you have been fairly warned, let's begin today's retrospective. Welcome back to a series of unfortunate events, The Bad Beginning, by Lemony Snicket. In Chapter 5, after a night of crying, the Baudelaire children feel a weight off their shoulders. They vow to make their terrible situation better. As they chop firewood, under the order of Count Olaf, of course, Violet and Klaus discuss a future in which they can actually use their fortune right now. They would make a castle that would safeguard them from Count Olaf and have everything that they could ever want or need. Sadly, this is not possible, but the kids can dream. For the moment, they need to do something about Count Olaf. They wonder if Justice Strauss would adopt them, but that seems unlikely as of right now. Mr. Poe did say they should go to him if they had any questions. Although they have less of a question and more of a complaint, they don't have anyone else to turn to. Going out into the city, they aimlessly search for Mr. Poe. Finally, they arrived at the banking district and attempted to seek help from Mr. Poe. However, their endeavors seem rather fruitless. As they try to explain what has been happening to them, Mr. Poe is so distracted with work, he doesn't seem to fully understand the situation. Violet and Klaus both mention that Count Olaf struck Klaus in the face, but Mr. Poe receives phone calls and gets into coughing fits for him to notice what they are saying. Ultimately, Mr. Poe states that Count Olaf is acting in loco parentis, meaning that the Count can raise the children how he sees fit. Defeated and astonished, the children then go to Justice Strauss's home. Not for help, but they wish to simply read and feel like they can escape from their horrible fate, even for just one moment. In this chapter, we learn that the adults seem to be unbelievably unhelpful. It's unbelievable that Mr. Poe would be so busy that he could not see the bruise on Klaus's face where Olaf slapped him. It's unbelievable that even with his coughing and the phone calls, that he couldn't hear the claims of child abuse. And I know they're just kids, but shouldn't have Violet and Klaus gone to the police? Surely they would at least hear the kids out, but maybe it would have just come to the same conclusion. But their neighbor is a judge. Shouldn't Justice Strauss be able to do something? I could believe they chose not to go to her because they feel she couldn't help, but later on they literally go to her house. She didn't notice the bruise on Klaus's face? Mr. Poe was busy, sure, but what was she doing that made it so she had no clue what was going on? Or did Klaus hide it thinking she would be just as useless as Mr. Poe? It's unbelievable. But this is something called the suspension of disbelief. Stories use this all the time in order to keep the story going. If this was real life, I'm sure Mr. Poe would have done something about Count Olaf's actions. The story might have ended right here. It's a very thin line that writers walk. Some use it very well, some can never get it to work for them. Handler straddles that line wholeheartedly, and doesn't hold back on showing that the kids are much smarter than the adults. Which, sadly, is kind of believable. Sometimes adults just don't see what is really happening, or they simply don't believe a child when they speak. So yes, it may have been outlandish that the adults around the Baudelaires won't or can't do anything to help them, but there could be numerous reasons as to why they can't be helped. That isn't the point. The point is, the children have to fend for themselves. The point is, to drive how alone they are. The kids must figure out a way to stop Count Olaf from hurting them, or at least how to keep on living with their fate. Things might seem bleak, but at least the kids will always have each other, and they are brilliant and talented. If the adults won't help, they will find a way themselves. But we still do not know of the plan that Count Olaf has concocted to steal their fortune. Until that plan is in effect, the children won't know how to react. So they must be on their guard until it is revealed. Until then, readers, keep on reading.